Welcome to Go Bank Yourself, where we break down how to grow and control capital like a banker. I'm your host, Dovi Herman, joined by my co-host, Pinny Levy. Let's begin.
Just got off the phone with a client, prospective client. Why prospective? Will she ever be a client? I don't know. Who brought up a point. What happens if the whole darn system crashes? Dollar fails, country fails, and well, you're talking about, my classic answer was, if you have faith that America will reboot somehow, let's talk about who we're going to attack with our pitchforks and torches and in what order. If the whole system fails, we will first march on Wall Street and the big banks, for sure. So, I mean, do you know how to get from
Washington?
here, Florida? No.
Yes, they have all the guns, so maybe let's not take
Wall
on that
Street,
army.
Right? No. On Wall Street first. So we're gonna from us here in Florida, we're gonna take the 95, walk it all the way up, or go on our scooters, not our Teslas, because we're assuming there's no power left in the grid, right? And how do you make a good torch? I would recommend some pine sap. Wrap it with gauze or wrap it with whatever you can adhere that to your stick. Don't light it till you get to DC to New York. And then we march on Wall Street with our pitchforks and our torches, because it's those darn Wall Street execs that caused the collapse. Read anything by Barry James Dyke, how overextended and how much that Wall Street is a 3-card Monte, a shell game, right? Mutual fund companies buying back their own stock, etc., or the interplay between different AI data center, the providers of the hardware, your NVIDIA, etc., and the credits that they will send to other companies for their purchase orders, who then inflate their own stocks based on the perceived success. We will march for sure on Wall Street. Then if we have any fuel left in our torches and any blade left on our, what do you call this? You have to say not for real. You have to say as if, right? Ke'ilu in our world. Mm-hmm. As if we were marching. Right. Ledugma, as an example, we're marching on Wall Street, and now we have a little bit of blade left on our pitchforks, and we have a little bit of fuel left in our torches. We're going to Washington, because they created the environment that allowed all this. And the federal regulators who allow Wall Street to just run a casino. And then if we have any blade left on our pitchforks or our scythes, right? Those the angel of death type of whatever we're doing in this theoretical thought experiment only. No one's actually hurting anybody. What are we doing in this model? We're marching on those life insurance executives, because they're the last ones standing. They're the last ones that have any real cash, because they're not overextended. And they're also the last one, or the first ones, if there's some type of a reboot, to say, where were we? Oh yeah, the life insurance companies had hundreds of billions in cash on hand, and everyone else had kind of nothing. It was just a shell game. So that's what'll really happen. And you could say, well, that's all made up. That's all fake. Okay, fine. Start prepping. You can buy silver, gold,
places to push back on that.
Yeah.
Only certain sectors of the life insurance industry is actually safe. You and I both know that a lot of life insurance companies are playing a very similar game to Wall Street with Bermuda and overextending. We just happen to know which companies and which products to use to best help ourselves and our clients. And while I love that story, chances are, if something like this were to happen, if the system all crumbles, we're going to be too busy fighting in the streets. Only a select few will be lucky enough to actually storm Wall Street.
Very good. The ones who have enough for their own security and their own food needs in the short term are the only ones that are going to be able to mount that attack on Wall Street. I mean, we literally had a community member here in Florida who, during Hurricane Wilma, I want to say, had the whole apartment building pounding on her door saying, "We heard you have water." You got to understand, hot South Florida, a week with no power, your toilets aren't flushing, your water's not running, and you're getting hungry and thirsty. "We heard you had water." That scared me. That was like one of the first stories we heard here when we moved down here from Crown Heights, from Brooklyn. It wasn't even a year before we actually had serious roof damage from a hurricane. Welcome to Florida. Welcome to home ownership. Welcome to the Florida home insurance rackets. And I'll put as it's just a stamp on that, if they ever, this is Florida specific, because I was thinking homeowners insurance, which my rates are $7-8 a year, but which is nothing compared to fire insurance in sections of California. But if you could self-insure because you don't have a mortgage and you have enough equity in your own bank, stop paying homeowners insurance to the homeowners insurance company. Pay it to your life insurance premium. That same $7 or $8 a year should go to my life insurance premium. And then in Florida, we also discussed this. Well, I always discuss this with clients. If they do go through and cancel, somehow delete Florida property taxes, you should still pay your property taxes to yourself as premiums to your own infinite bank. Anyway, that was one of those.
A lot of strategic thoughts there. All right.
A lot of
I
stuff.
love the opening rant. Welcome to episode 5 of Go Bank Yourself. I like that in the last few weeks we've had, specific topics, and we're kind of going deep on those topics. And the topic I want to cover today is a phrase that if anybody who has spent any time, probably specifically online, or talking to their friends who, supposedly know a lot about finance, and I'm sure you do. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody. But there's a popular phrase out there called buy term and invest the difference. And
invest the rest.
Invest the rest. And people who hold by this as their gospel, do they realize that whole life insurance has been around for almost 200 years and this phrase is less than 50 years old?
That's true.
Do you know how
Good
this
point.
phrase started? Who started that campaign?
Was it Hutton? No, it was.
He was UL. He was Universal Life. So complete opposite. Similar time period. It's okay. It was A.L. Williams. Young A.L. Williams watched his mother struggle after his father passed away, and his father had a whole life policy that didn't pay out enough of a death benefit to his family. And this convinced him that his father was sold the wrong policy, which maybe he was, and that nobody should ever buy whole life insurance. So he had a specific case where whole life maybe wasn't the right strategy for his father, and probably wasn't looking at things from the big picture. And his family kind of got screwed by that, for lack of a better term, and it affected him. It affected him a lot. So I can see where he would come from in vilifying whole life after it affected him personally. But to take that and to turn it into what it's become today, it's not fair to the American public, because they just end up being led astray. And whether he did that on purpose or not, who knows? It's possible that he didn't do that on purpose at first, and then after he started making millions on that phrase, even if he ended up finding out how properly structured whole life can work, still wouldn't go along with it, then that's a whole other story.
I think we talked about this offline before, that if you're a Dave Ramsey, can we get so sharp? If you're a Dave Ramsey putting out ads on YouTube that whole life is for suckers sold by thieves, God forbid.
I've seen this.
That you did see them?
Maybe I don't think it was that exact wording, but I think I know what you're talking about. Yes.
It starts right out of the blocks. It's an ad to go buy term insurance or mutual
it's like he's on stage and he says the only people who sell whole life are people who don't understand
don't know it, or they're liars.
Or liars or something like that.
It's like, whew, way to impugn a whole industry there. But it's so we theorized, does he still push only term because he doesn't know about whole life, or because you can't go back on 2 decades of preaching the other direction? Right, that would be a real.
Yeah, so I'm in the latter camp. I think he knows what's going on, and he made hundreds of millions of dollars on one message, talking about that for 30 years. You can't go back on it after that.
Right.
I mean, I probably wouldn't.
Tough to change your spots at that point. So buy term and invest the rest. Well, what aspects should we focus on here? Let's
break it down. Allow me to break down what this strategy is in a nutshell. So the idea is that you have term life insurance during your working years, and once the policy expires, your investments will have grown enough to the point that you don't need a death benefit anymore, and you're self-insured.
Yep.
I can expound on that, but let's hear from you, Penny. When I say that, what jumps out at you?
First of all, making sure you're doing any type of objective comparison has to be fair. But let's say with a subjective. So where are you growing this guaranteed fortune is the very first question. So if you're not buying whole life insurance with a guaranteed future cash value and a very, very certain, even though it's labeled non-guaranteed, but within a couple $1,000s of what we tell you as a youngster, what you're going to have as a senior, well, without the benefit of that planning, where are you going to grow this fortune, assuming that you're not wasting, I'll use I'll use the Dave Ramsey terms, wasting all your money on whole life insurance. And given that part of your money has to go to buy the term insurance, where are you investing the rest in?
Right. And we're just going to assume that people are investing the rest in whatever mutual funds are being sold, or if they're more of a do-it-yourself, S&P ETFs are the hottest thing in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or longer.
You could then ask, how long are you going to invest it? And when are you going to plan to have the stock market correction during your retirement years? Do you want it to happen when you're 65 and you just got out of the workforce, or do you want it to happen when you're 75 and you had that trip planned to see your grandkids? You're living off this huge fortune that we haven't, we've defined generally where it's going to be in the market. But when would you like the timing of the 2 corrections per decade to be? At the beginning of your decades or the end of your decades? I'm being facetious because you cannot plan about what the value will be other than how much money you sunk into it. You cannot plan for how much money you will have because you don't know when the corrections will come. You can't time the market.
Right. So somebody could have had a $2 million term policy for the last 30 years, and now they're 65 or 70 years old, and their investment portfolio grew to $2 million, and now their policy expires. They say, okay, great, I have $2 million now. I don't need a death benefit anymore. Well, what if 2 weeks later, a big market crash comes and your $2 million just became 1? Okay, so someone could say, all right, well, I really do want to make sure to leave. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, or your 2 million just became 1 million, or 1.2 million, or 1.5 million. And all of your planning is now for naught, because can you withdraw? Can you take this distributions in the same amount as the 7 fat years? No, you cannot. Meaning your fund won't last. The only recourse you have is to plan on a shorter amount of time to live, because the funds cannot last the way they were told you were told that they would last.
Right. Or just accept that you're not going to be able to guarantee any type of inheritance to the next generation. So somebody could say at this point, okay, fine, I didn't expect this to happen. Let me just go get another term policy. Well, they go back to their agent, they go through underwriting, and wow, the policy's what now? 5, 10, 20 times more expensive if they even qualify at all.
That's right.
So insurability is never guaranteed.
Yeah, I haven't assisted with death benefit deliveries yet, thank God. Maybe I'm a lucky charm, but I have had plenty of sob stories where someone wanted to, hey, I had term, I want to get another one. I'm 65, I'm 70, I'm 79, and I just had a TIA. My father just had a heart attack. Can you get life insurance? Now we're scared. No, you cannot. And if you could, the price is a non-starter. Talking hundreds, if not thousands, plus per month for a small policy. It's not. It kind of. I want to say it doesn't seem fair, but that's the price of life at that point. That's the price of life insurance if you're trying to buy term at a later age.
Right. And we're not knocking the idea of buying term life insurance, especially when you're young. I have a term life as well as a whole. My wife has term. We're going to work on getting her a convertible term policy soon, because it is very useful and it's extremely cheap, especially when you're young and healthy. But that's why it's so cheap, because the chances of something fatal happening to us at such a young age are extremely small. The insurance company doesn't charge very much for that. But once you get into your 50s, 60s, especially 70s, if you even qualify, because I think most companies wouldn't even talk to you if you're 75.
A non-starter, you're paying more. You're paying more in premiums, or almost as much in premiums as the potential death benefit. So, but I like your statement. We are not knocking term insurance. There's definitely a place for it. For one thing, a family, a bread earner of a family needs to be responsible to have life insurance, however they can get it. If the finances are such, the budget is such that one can't afford whole life insurance or to design something in the IBC space, then yeah, they should have convertible term. They should bookmark their insurability with convertible term, meaning to say, I'm approved now when I'm younger and healthier, and as my career catches up to my skills or I work on my abilities, I earn more income. and people generally earn more income the longer they're in a field. Well, now I can't afford it. Do I have to go to underwriting again? No, I have convertible term, and I have the rating of a younger person, and I speak from experience, anyone in your 20s, wink, wink, that your 30s ain't your 20s, and your 40s are not your 30s. And man, do I wish I were 40 again. So now go ask Ken or anyone else. I'm
Yeah.
not so old. I'm 52, but I can tell you it's my common phrase is when someone I said, "You used to be a gymnast?" I said, "Yeah, 30 years and 50 pounds ago, I was a different person." So
You were a gymnast.
30 years and 50 pounds ago.
Okay, amazing. I didn't know. Yes, so we've mentioned the phrase convertible term a couple of times. So that would be a term policy with one of our select mutual life insurance companies that you lock in your health rating through this term policy, and you can at any time convert up to the death benefit that you have secured. You can convert that part or all of it into a whole life policy without having to go through underwriting again. And that's a big deal because, as I said before, insurability is not guaranteed. Our health changing day to day, week to week, or year to year is likely. I mean, that it happens. I've seen people go from preferred ratings to table ratings in a matter of a couple of years.
And are we talking about like the banner life or the as seen on TV or heard on the radio type of term life insurance? Is that the convertible kind? Generally not.
No, of course not.
Straw man question.
As
right.
said before, these
Generally
are specific policies from select mutual life insurance companies that have whole life policies that support the structure for the infinite banking concept.
Right. Are they going to be as cheap
That's
as
not
the
even
other ones?
that's not even all mutual companies. I think we're cutting each other off. That's not even all mutual companies. You want to be careful about which mutual life insurance companies you use. This is a little off topic, but the way I view it are companies that are only selling life insurance and annuities and disability, sure, because that doesn't change so much. So that would be no PNC, no auto insurance, no homeowners insurance. They have been paying dividends for over 100 years without ever missing one. I think those are the two criteria that jump out at me.
A ratings too. You want to look for an A rating through the S&P or through Moody's or any independent financial rating company that says, yes, that life insurance company, A or better. And
while that is true, while that is true, and you want to make sure they're A rated, we both know the rating agencies don't mean jack. Like if you have a very poor rating, I'm sure that does mean something. But we can both name a bunch of companies that we would never buy policies with that are A rated. We both know that a large part of why the 2008 crisis came was because the rating agencies were rating junk bond funds AAA. So while it is a factor that you want to work with A companies, that's not as high on my list.
Well, it suffice to say the ones that we do work with and recommend all have that, as well as the other factors. Never having missed a dividend
right.
Interest payment, have never, and they're not stock owned, where there's an artificial power or force driving sales or pushing the company in a direction other than the conservative issuance of policies to cover the risk of loss of life. And when a company runs itself conservatively or their board is running them conservatively, then the outcome of that is all the wonderful things that we've seen, the ability to bank, the ability to predict where your equity or cash value will be. Those are outgrowths of a well-run life insurance company, which we wouldn't send the client anywhere else. Did we cover everything?
So back to... No, there's more. Oh, there's infinitely more. We're not going to cover everything in one episode, but there's definitely more. So back to buy term and invest the difference. So it's like this. You're shopping for a death benefit. You have a specific death benefit in mind. You run a quote on what whole life insurance death benefit would cost, and you take that total, and then instead you buy term and invest the rest. Is that the thought? Because if you think about whole life insurance the way we do, that doesn't make any sense. Literally doesn't make any sense. Because when you use whole life to solve for financing, rather than solve for death benefit, well, we can structure a whole life policy in so many different ways that who's to say what the death benefit's going to be? You want a higher death benefit? We'll make sure it has a higher death benefit. You're not as focused on death benefit? Okay, then we'll build it a little differently. So to just say a one size fits all.
In other words, when we look at the problem of comparing buy term, invest the rest to whole life insurance, the seemingly more expensive product or more of your income going into that product, whole life, when you couple that with the fact that we build this in the main part to finance our lives with whole life, well, the death benefit is an afterthought. The death benefit grows to a point that you might not have been limited to had you bought simple term insurance that's going to run out anyway. In fact, it's planned obsolescence in that you know your death benefit, hey, I want $1 million. I have a mortgage and 3 kids. Well, how long do you want it for? Let's do a 30-year. So now I bought it at 30, now I'm 60. Do I still have a mortgage? No. Do I still have kids? Not young. Do I want them to have an inheritance? Sure, that'd be great. Where's my fortune? Doesn't matter. The insurance is gone. 30 years has come up. Whereas even without necessarily planning to buy $1 million of whole life, it could get there.
Right.
Sort of
so
your point?
not only are there so many different things that you could do with a good whole life policy, but just looking at the death benefit side, whole life is still the most efficient way to buy death benefit for the long term.
Oh, for sure. Especially when you, as you were alluding to, when you're planning to tap into the equity, and this is infinite banking in a nutshell. I have to finance things. I don't have enough money to buy a car. I'm going to go to the bank. Well, if I diligently saved capital inside whole life and I don't have enough money for the car, I will go to my bank, to my equity, and use that. Not even as cash, but as a loan. Discussion for a different time, but growing that pile of money ever more so, the more diligently I take loans and repay them aggressively from that fund. So my whole life insurance is covering the need for fortunes, the need for financing in life, and the need for death benefit, but all the way to age 120, not like a invest the rest, buy term, invest the rest, where my investment fortunes are unknown, taxation unknown as well, and my need for death benefit may still be present, but too bad, it runs out after a given term, and there's nothing I can do about it but buy more at the mercy of my health and the current rates for more term insurance.
Absolutely. And to the point where we don't necessarily have to vilify the whole idea of investing in the stock market. Ideally, with IBC, you're investing in something. And as we said in the first couple episodes, if that happens to be the market, that's your investment of choice, and that's fine. This doesn't have to be an either or. Buy term and invest the difference is like, such that you have to do this or you have to do that. Well, you can save money in good whole life policies and then leverage that equity to go fund your investments. And when you repay the policy loan, well, that's really just another form of saving. And you're not interrupting the growth of that policy in the meantime.
That's right. Well, we won't vilify the stock market, but let's do it. No, but what you don't have is uninterrupted compound growth in the stock market. I'm not here to badmouth the stock market, but if you have a crystal ball, you could do great.
Yeah. And the older you get, the less risk you want to take, the less risk you can handle. And the younger you are, the less risk you have to take. So the younger you are, the better whole life is going to work for you. And that doesn't mean it can't work for you in your 50s and 60s. It absolutely can. Death benefit probably becomes more a part of the conversation at that point. Less focused on uninterrupted compounding. Well, I shouldn't say that because who knows? You could live to 90, 100 years old and let that thing grow for 40 years.
I just got off the phone with another potential client, a prospective client, who says, but I don't have a spouse and I don't have kids, nor do I plan on it. So what need do you then have for death benefit? I'm glad my term ran out and now I just have my big fortunes from the market. Was she right? Well, the phrase that I would say in infinite banking in using your death benefit while still alive is living off of our future dead selves. Borrowing against your life insurance policy in a tax-free way, which can't be said of most retirement, qualified retirement plans except for a Roth, which is going to be highly limited in how much can go in the first place. But life insurance death benefits are not just for survivors. They're even for the living in the form, again, of tapping equity and letting the death benefit pay off that loan far in the future when one's dead and gone, or for nursing care and not burdening other family, or for called chronic care riders in the life insurance world, or where with some companies, even for a life-threatening illness, one can tap into and advance on that death benefit. God forbid they need it, but it's an incredible nice to have and not need that whole life gives that 98% of term policies do not give. Meaning I can think of a few term policies that include those extended and advanced living benefits, but they are few and far in between and quite expensive when it comes to term.
And very limited in California, even harder to find in California.
It's true. They are state by state. So do we exhaust everything? We talked about buy term and invest the rest means I'm going to have a big fortune. That's not guaranteed. It means I'll be able to buy more insurance in the future if I need it. That's not guaranteed. It might be price restrictive or health restrictive. I can't accomplish these things with whole life. Yes, we can. We can design whole life to accomplish all of those things, and to give more service to something you said. We're not knocking term insurance. It definitely has a place, especially if someone has a large family or low income,
right?
And they still need to be responsible 100%. You don't want to be on some community bulletin board. Levy, someone passed away. Let's put up a collection for so and so who didn't even have term insurance when the price is really low for someone who's young and healthy just starting out. So.
Yeah, build cash in whole life, and if that doesn't give you a large enough death benefit, then supplement with term. And there are many people that I watch online who they really push buying or securing your full economic human life value. So that would be the formula of your current income times the number of working years you have left. That's give or take, probably you could get a little bit more than that. That's the maximum amount of death benefit that a life insurance company would issue you today. So secure that, ideally, not even just ideally, I mean just secure that with convertible term. Here's another topic that probably doesn't deserve its own episode, so let's do it now. You don't want to waste your insurability. There's only a maximum amount of death benefit that of insurance that these companies will issue on somebody, and if you go buy $5 million of term with a random company that can't do what we're talking about, then that is a large percentage, or even all of it, of your maximum insurability that you could have gotten with a much better company, with a much better system that would allow to build good whole life policies for the infinite banking concept.
Right, meaning if you were at $100,000 a year and you have 30 years in the workforce, then your human life value is $3 million. But if you went and got the bottom of the barrel cheapest term life for all $3 million, then no second company will come and issue the type of convertible term or whole life that we're talking about. You've reached maximum insurability. That's why in the industry there's such a thing as replacing insurance, which has a legitimate place once the suitability is met.
It does. There's definitely a place to replace term life policies or any life insurance policies that are substandard for what you're trying to do. But you have to realize that when it comes to level term policies, meaning the premium that you're paying is the same every month or every year throughout the life of the policy. Well, if you're paying $100 a month for 20 years, then you're kind of overpaying in the first few years and underpaying in the last few years, right? So if you replace a policy after paying into it for 4 or 5 years, well, that's kind of when the policy's at its most expensive. So you just have to realize that if you go into it thinking, oh, I can just replace this during those 4 or 5 years, you did throw a lot of money away. And no, I shouldn't say threw it away because you still secured a death benefit, which is very important. A bad life insurance policy is better than no life insurance policy.
So thanks for tuning in this discussion. Term, invest the rest. What's that all about? There's a legitimate place for good convertible term insurance. There are there's a lot of emotional based myths about if you don't buy a term and invest the rest, you're going to be wasting your money on whole life. Go see Dave Ramsey, or better yet, don't go see Dave. Don't go see Dave Ramsey and his rants against.
Go see Dave Ramsey and compare to people like us and many other names that I could throw out, but I'd rather you watch us. So maybe in future episodes, we'll drop a lot of the people that we learn from online and come to your own educated conclusions.
Thank you for listening to Go Bank Yourself. To learn how to apply these strategies in your own life, email Dovi Herman at realchangefinancial.com. We'll see you in the next episode.